So, everything is garbage. But at least the games are good. And while we all stay at home looking for new ways to entertain ourselves, such as bankrupting those pesky Wall Street types, I'm going to show you one of the more cost-effective ways of getting into next generation gaming and unbox the Xbox Series S, set it up and give you some first impressions. Let's get into it. Hey up and welcome to New Rising Media, your home of hands-on reviews and gloves-off opinions about tech and gaming. I'm Jason England, all-round nerd journalist, and I thank you for taking the time out of your busy day to check out this video. Cheers. Let me start by taking you back to the conclusion of my PS5 review. All you need to do is buy the box and the subscription, whether that is the far cheaper Series S, the one that I'm seeing a lot of people buying alongside one of these things as a bit of a Game Pass Trojan horse into their life. To get that, you can watch my full review just by clicking the eye above my head over there. So I stumbled across an Xbox Series S restock on Amazon and I couldn't resist grabbing one while I can, because this is what I believe is the strongest weapon in Microsoft's arsenal in the console wars. But again, there's room for many. We can all love each other. This is that Game Pass Trojan horse that many PlayStation gamers will take a look at the oh so steep near 500 quid price of the PS5 and think, this is 250. Let's give it a go. Or for those with a bit of cash knocking about in their pockets, thinking that this lockdown is never going to end, then it's a good supplemental purchase for people who want to see what Game Pass has to offer. Dip their toes into Microsoft's waters, as it was. The bigger Series X is just there for the spec heads and the fanboys out there. And no normal consumer really cares about that. But what they do care about, especially in the midst of a pandemic, is value for money, which is what this offers. A couple of my mates have done the same and they can't speak highly enough of this, so I'm getting a bit eager. Let's just get this out of the box while we can. So to make this work, we've got a double angle thing going on here. You've got, hello, got me up there and got you over here. So we get to have a full experience of what this is like together. And then we'll be doing some size comparisons because I've been told this is quite a small boy. This is quite a pupper of a console. So let's have a look. Bits of grippy tape. Last time I bought an Xbox was the 360 when I was, that's going back a bit, 16 years old, that's it. I'd just bought like the first Xbox like a couple of years beforehand because I really wanted to see what Xbox Live was like. Beyond that, it was immediately mind-blowing just while I have all the love in the world for the PS2, just how much more power you could get out of this thing and how much better games looked and how much quicker they loaded. So I always have like a soft spot for Xbox. All nice recyclable cardboard, gotta love that. And right on the top is the Xbox Series S itself. Power your dreams, it says. And damn, they were not kidding. That is small. Anyway, nice little get started guide. And then there's a bit at the back of the box with all your cables and gubbins. So HDMI 2.1 cable, product and warranty stuff, blah, 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 blah. Power outlet, and last but not least, the controller, which we'll dig into that in a bit. Let's get this box down here. Let's start with the pad. Are you entertained by my sound yet? So a nice grippy texture on it. Obviously this is one of the bits that I don't think Microsoft is going to come close to beating Sony with in my mind. Let me explain. Comparing it with the PS5 controller, I'm in two minds about it. I do prefer the asymmetric joysticks, but also the haptic feedback and the adaptive triggers on here, it just screams next gen. While Microsoft has all of the backwards compatible options, you're actually able to use like your old Xbox One controllers on there, whereas you can't use your PS4 controllers on the PS5, which seems a little isolating. This is a much more functional controller, whereas this definitely has a lot more form. One of the more frustrating bits about Xbox and their controllers is the fact that it still runs on AA batteries, and you need to buy a separate plain charge kit to make it charge, which to me seems a little bit backwards. I know Microsoft has their reasons for using AA's, but it's just not good for the environment, is it? Let's move our attention over to this thing. Helps if I pull it the right way. Power your dreams by getting them the right way, not upside down. And there is the Xbox Series S. So let me tell you a little bit about the specs of this thing. That looks just like the tannoy system that you'd be shouting for a big taste of the bacon into at your local McDonald's. This still has the same custom Zen 2 CPU architecture that you find on the Series X. It's just clocked a little bit slower. Whereas instead of the 3.8 gigahertz that you'll get on the Series X, you get 3.6. And on the graphics side of it, you still get the same custom RDNA 2 GPU, but instead of 52 CUs at 1.8 gigahertz, you get 20 CUs at 1.5, which leads to a reduction in those dreaded teraflops from 12 to 4. Instead of 16 gigabytes of GDDR6, you get 10 gigabytes of GDDR6 in here, and the configuration of the RAM inside the machine as well is different as well, with the X being faster and there being more of it. So what am I trying to say here? Well, it obviously cuts some corners to make it cheaper, but are those corners a bad thing to cut? Because at the end of the day, it is a cheap and accessible way into next-gen gaming. And I can see why a lot of people would have been a huge fan of getting something like this. But pardon the pun, because hey, there's a huge fan on the front. For a joke, let's do some size comparison. Oh my days, just look at this. And then let me get the side profile in here for the other camera. Just, my God. A next-gen console in that size, Microsoft have done some ultimate wizardry to stuff it all in a chassis like this. But let's give it a more realistic piece of competition. Classic PS2, because why not? It's my favorite console, and I mentioned it before. You can tell it's actually smaller. And yeah, as you can see, it is also slightly slimmer as well. So good frame of reference, definitely the smallest of the next-gen consoles. I can show you around the back while we're here. We've got Ethernet to high-speed USB, got HDMI out, and the storage card expansion, and then of course power. You've got one USB on the front, you've got the power button, and you have the button to connect the controller. One cool detail I just noticed is that can you see that really cool looking line saying hello from Seattle? It's those minimal things that I do like that gives this some sense of personality. But enough pissing about with it like this, let's plug it in and get it set up. And now we've come up to a bit of a code part, so I'm going to need to use this phone. I'm very sorry about that. But I'll be right back with a bit of a software talk, some gameplay, and then I'll tell you my first impressions. Yeah, the Xbox Series S is now on, and as you can see, this is what everybody will be greeted with. Obviously, I've installed a few games and put Prime Video on here, so yet another box that I can watch The Office on. Now, for streamers out there, just to address that bit, there isn't any kind of manual turn off HD copies protection setting button that you flick. It just works, but in a weird way. Like, it only comes on when it needs to be on, and for that to happen you need to make sure you have energy saving settings turned on your Xbox. Got it? Cool. Then let's dive in. So as you can see, it's all pretty nicely laid out. You've got all of your content here. I'm told this is very similar to the Xbox One. I've not played on the Xbox One myself, so this is new to me. Let's open up a game, shall we? So as you can see with quick resume, it is all. So So if I bounce over to this side, I can show you the card that comes up that has all of the different quick switching options here. So you can switch between apps on the go. So let's go ahead and open up Halo 5, a game that I have not played yet. So I'm very excited to tuck into this and see what it's like. Is it any good? Let me know in the comments. Let's say I wanted to sort that out. Got ourselves a little bit of a funky screenshot there, even though it is a terrible screenshot, and you've got all of your different bits like sharing to Twitter and stuff. So the next bit I can show you is quick resuming between apps. So obviously one of the key bits that you saw as I turned the console on is that you can switch between apps even when the console's been turned off and back on. It saves the state of it beforehand, whereas now you can switch very easily between games on the go. How much am I going to use this? I'm not entirely sure, because it might just be me being an old man, but I'm not necessarily playing lots of games on the go. But whatever, it's a good thing to have. And the last bit I wanted to pay particular attention to is the controller. Is this pad here. So it's a really comfortable controller. I really like the gripping material on this. I'm not a fan of the clicky-clacky of the D-pad, but hey, you can't have it all. Joysticks feel great. Big fan of the buttons and everything. Oh, I made a pretty cool photo of my Escort Cosworth here. And while there isn't stuff like the adaptive triggers or the haptic feedback that you get on the PS5 pad, there is like certain bits of catered rumble to the triggers to help provide a range of vibrations over it. It's definitely a lot more of a blunt tool compared to like the precision that you get with the haptic feedback, but it's good. It's good. It's not a problem whatsoever. It's still a fine controller. That, in a nutshell, is the Xbox Series S. Now, don't get me wrong, I know full well all the shortfalls of this system compared to the Series X. The fact that it's a next-gen console and it can't play games at full 4K, and the fact that when you look to the backwards compatibility, which this is absolutely stellar at compared to the PS5, you realise it plays the 1S version of the games, so it's the more downgraded version of those games rather than taking full 4K advantage of them as the Series X does. But at the end of the day, I've got a simple question. Who the hell cares? At the end of the day, it's a cheap and cheerful machine and you're gonna have a lot of fun with it. But I'll save the rest of that for my full review. I'll have a go with it for about a month and I'll get back to you and let you know what it's like. For now, that is going to do it. Thank you so very much for watching. It means the world that you were able to join me today on this video. And as always, likes if you enjoyed the video, subs if you loved it, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.